Yeah, so good morning, everybody, and welcome all to the first masterclass of the Clean Futures Catalyst, the Road to Sustainability. My name's Brian Stevens. I work for Coventry University, and I manage the Catalyst part of the Clean Futures program, which is hosting this event today. So before we start, there's just a couple of bits of housekeeping. So as Lindsay said, we are recording the masterclass today. So if you don't want to be seen on any recording, make sure you turn the camera off. In any case, I mean, if you could turn cameras off, it would be helpful anyway, as it reduced some of the network bandwidth speed issues. So if you can turn it off, it'd be great. All microphones, apart from the presenters, have been turned off. So if you do need to ask any questions, and there is opportunity to ask questions on the presentations, can you use the Q&A part within Zoom to ask those questions, and we'll endeavour to answer those questions during the masterclass today. Any general questions around the masterclass, can you ask that just in the general chat? We will share all the presentation material afterwards. So yeah, we will send it around. Next. Oops. So the agenda for today is,
sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give you a very short overview of the Clean Futures program that is running this masterclass today. Then I'll hand over to Louisa, who will present the main part of the masterclass with an overview of sustainability, what it means to your businesses and the actions you can take. This will be then followed by some time when we'll try and answer the questions that are raised. And then Sarah from Coventry City Council Decarbonisation Net Zero Programme will give an overview of some support in the West Midlands region to support your businesses to decarbonise. And then again, there's some more period for questions. Next. So just a little background into the Clean Futures programme and the Clean Futures Catalyst that's running the masterclass today. The Clean Futures programme is one of 5 innovation accelerators in the West Midlands that have been set up to accelerate innovation in health tech, clean tech, and digital technologies. They're funded by Innovate UK through the West Midlands Combined Authority. And this programme is really focused on supporting SMEs in the West Midlands to adopt and develop sustainable technologies, particularly within transport and related supply chains. And this is done through a partnership with the Connected Places Catapult, ourselves, Coventry University, and also the Black Country Innovative Manufacturing Organisation. And there's 2 parts to the programme. The first is the accelerator part. If you go on to the next slide, please, Louisa. Yeah, so there's 2 parts, an accelerator and a catalyst. The accelerator is focused on supporting 40 SMEs to accelerate their transport-related products or services to the market by providing them with expert technical support and commercial support, and connecting them with industry and investors to enable them to bring those products to market. For automotive and manufacturing related support, it's coming from our research institutes at Coventry University. For rail related support, it's coming from the Black Country Innovative Manufacturing Organisation. And SMEs who are on this programme receive £50,000 of funding to support their developments over that 6-month period. We've currently got 20 businesses on the programme, and we're going to start recruiting another 20 businesses. So there will be a full application process being released next month. So if you've got any businesses you know of or you're interested in yourselves, then we will provide links at the end of the presentation, or contact us directly and I can give you more information. So the Catalyst part of the programme is really more about supporting businesses with that foundation of knowledge, guidance, insight into the skills required and technologies to make a business sustainable and develop sustainable products. We're doing this through a program of networking events, masterclasses like this one, workshops, best practice events that demonstrate some of the key technologies and processes for sustainability. Next one. So we've got a broad range of events that are planned over the next 12 months. I won't go into detail, but this is the plan. So we've got other masterclasses planned. The next one's on the 24th of April and is available to sign up now. We've got a Future Fuels workshop on the 17th of April at BCIMO in Dudley. And there's also a networking event on the 17th of April in Dudley. As I said, we'll provide links at the end of the presentation so you can sign on to those if you're interested. Next. So yeah, now I'd like to introduce Louisa Sykes from Coventry University London, who's going to provide the introduction to sustainability.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm very, very happy to be here, to be part of this exciting program. So thank you very much for the invitation today. And we are trying to introduce sustainability. And this is the first of the masterclasses. And hopefully by the end, you have some very good ideas about sustainability and what we can do about sustainability. So it's really one of the hot topics, let's say, one of the most talked about topics in society, and also very highly relevant for business these days. So we really need to pay attention and acknowledge the importance of the sustainability, and also all the practices that are actually associated with sustainability, linking with the problematics of climate change and the need to develop and improve environmental management systems, to protect our natural resources, and of course, our planet. So I'm going to do a three-part presentation. So the first part, I'm going to talk about sustainability and what it means. The second part, we're going to talk about all the problems associated with our modern life and what are the big issues that we need to be aware of, and we need to connect all those big issues. And the final part is actually subdivided in two parts. One is about businesses, what they can do in the space of sustainability. And the other part, the last part, is about sustainability, responsibility and the sense of responsibility that all of us can have in terms of making changes in our lifestyle, and perhaps being more conscientious about environmental impacts. So this is the plan for my presentation, and I'm hoping it will be interesting. So what we're going to do as well, we're doing a little bit of interaction between us presenters and the participants. So we're using menti.com. Some of you probably familiar with menti.com. So we're using that as a way to connect. And so you're going to be able to answer some questions. And we're starting with exactly the question of sustainability. But to start with some basics about how we're going to do the interaction. So what I'm going to ask you is to either write the code or use the QR code. So if you type in, so first of all, type in menti.com in your browser, and then you get a chance to type a code. So, or just look at your QR. So if you type in the code 16068457. So we're going to then move to the first question. So I'm going to ask you not to exit the quiz after the first question, because we're going to come back to the quiz time and time again. So the first question is about sustainability, and what sustainability means for you. So you have a few seconds to answer. So everybody has.
Louisa, do you want to go to the next screen? Because I think that's got the QR code on.
Okay. So I'm just going to, it's too late for the first question now because there is a timing requirement, which is 20 seconds. So everybody has answered. It should be on the chat, perhaps, the code. But I will repeat the code in a minute. So basically, the right question for that is the sustainability integrated the 3 dimensions, and not just the environmental and social. If you enter or thought about that's just enough to define sustainability, we have to integrate the economics as well. And hopefully later on in the quiz and in the presentation, you'll be able to understand why. But let's get back to our presentation. So let me just remind maybe the ones that just came in about the code for the quiz is 160688457, or the QR code. So I believe you can still get in if you are late, but I can't guarantee 100%. If you late, you're able to step in. So let's then start with the definition of sustainability, which I think it's quite important as a starting point. And I would like to start this journey to sustainability with a statement which I find quite powerful. It's not the most intellectual of the species that survive, is not the strongest that survives, but the species that survive is the one that is able to adapt and adjust to the changing environment which finds itself. So I just thought it was very, very appropriate to quote Charles Darwin, because we need to change, and that this is something that we cannot delay for later on, for in 10 years time or 20 years time. This is important that we be aware of the need to change. And once again, we are being tested, and so those changes in society are required, and sustainability fits into this level of necessary change that we must embrace, really. So we're going to move to another sustainability definition, which I think is quite important as well. Let me just move to the next slide. Doesn't seem to be a bit sticky. Okay, so that's my favorite definition of sustainability. And so sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generators to meet their own needs. I think is a very, very powerful statement, and I'm sure you can agree with me. And this definition also helps to include the 3 dimensions of sustainability, which we're going to discuss, as important to integrate people, planet, and profits. So we're adopting a triple bottom line approach. So what does that mean? It means that we need to integrate all those 3 dimensions in order to be more effective in our journey towards sustainability. So this triple bottom line, it also helps businesses to understand why they need to take steps towards sustainability. Because of course, if you exclude the profitability side of things, I don't think you're going to win a lot of businesses into this journey into sustainability. It's important to maintain the focus on financial returns and financial gains. So it's the overlap of these three dimensions, people, planet, and profit, is going to be effective in the sense that are going to bring a lot of people and a lot of business into the realization they need to embrace sustainability. So this is what sustainability means, is under this perspective of the triple bottom line, when you need to integrate those three dimensions. So my question is, why organizations incorporate sustainability principles into that business practices? So let's try perhaps to explore this a little bit. So international businesses these days, more than ever, they need to be efficient, they need to optimize their operations in order to meet the market requirements and all the competitive pressures in the market. But they also need to think about environmental objectives and need to think about social and ethical aspects. When we go back to the classic management theories, the focus was only on economic growth and profit. So environmental objectives are normally considered to be an obstacle, a constraint to the achievement of economic goals in the business. But however, more recent business analysis and business studies treat both economics and ecology as the same coin and two sides of the same coin. So all of these theoretical or new theoretical approach, they actually suggest that sustainable corporation is feasible, and it's important to continue to focus on profit, because this is why businesses continue to be able to survive. They need to create profits, they need to generate returns for shareholders, but at the same time, they must not neglect the environment, and also they must not neglect the ethical and social aspects related to all the stakeholders that are connected with the business. We can actually ask a question or invert this kind of reasoning and thinking about if firms will be able to compete out there if they're not paying enough attention to sustainability. And these days, it's about long-term survival of businesses. And so positioning into the environmental and social concern and addressing those important concerns in society and impacts on the environment is going to place organizations in a way they will be able to better survive and position themselves better in the market where they operate. So really, environmentally friendly strategies are important these days because more of us are scrutinizing companies in relation to their environmental performance. And we know if those companies are not being honest or they have PR promotions that are pointing to sustainability on the environmental and social dimension, but in reality, their performance in practice is very poor. So we're able to scrutinize and demand better performance, and we scrutinize that environmental and social performance of companies. In fact, those companies that actually invest in sustainability are better positioned, as I mentioned earlier on, and some of them can become benchmarks to other companies in the market. What about energy. So there is a big challenge related to energy. And of course, the energy is the engine of companies and also the countries and everywhere around the world. So this is the engine of progress. So let's think about what types of energy dominate consumption worldwide these days. So I'm going to ask you again to get back to Menti, please, and do question 2. Select the statement regarding fossil fuels you consider to be correct. So you need to choose between those 3 options. So fossil fuels representing 100%, representing half of the total energy consumption, or 80%. Okay, so quite a number of you, yes, answered fossil fuels representing 80% of world energy consumption. That's the correct answer. Thank you very much for that. So I can see that many very knowledgeable people within the group. So let's move to the next question, question 3. How can we take a more significant environmental approach to energy consumption? So by switching from diesel to petrol cars, by replacing a car by motorbike, or by switching to EV vehicles. Okay, so the correct one was, of course, switching to electric cars, which are experiencing, as you know, considerable growth in sales, especially in Europe. Let's just move to next question. So what sector of the renewable energy produces more power in the UK? So biomass, solar, or wind? Okay, so quite a few of you of you selected wind, which is the correct answer. In UK, considerable amount of investment has been made in wind power, both in onshore and offshore wind power. So it represents at the moment around 30% of all the energy that we consume, the power, beg your pardon, all the power that we consume in the UK, about 30% of it comes from renewable energy, and specifically from wind power. So you probably be interested to know that, and it's good to know the UK is one of the leaders in wind power in the world. So one last question, actually. So not to finalize the quiz, but just finalize the second part. So we go coming back to it. What's the most talked about environmental problem? So changes in weather, litter in the streets, and climate change. So again, a lot of you answer correctly as climate change. So let's come back to our presentation. So we know now that the energy that dominates our lives is fossil fuels, and there is obviously problems associated with the burning of fossil fuel. So again, you identify the problem well. We are generating a huge amount of greenhouse gas emissions. and that has got a very detrimental impact on the environment. So energy sustainability is possible. The technologies are out there for us to use. However, is basically the journey to take us from our position now, which is depending on fossil fuels, about 80% of all the energy consumption, going through an energy transition, which is exactly what we're living right now. And how fast we are going obviously depends on countries and the policies, and that more of that a bit later. So what we need to do is to understand what are the problems generated by this issue of the dependency to fossil fuels, and what are the implications. So we need to understand the impact of the burning of fossil fuels and what is impacting, how it's impacting our planet. And so obviously you identify the problem as climate change. And this is what we talked more about in these days when we talk about environmental concerns. So I selected a group of photos for the shock effect. As you can see, some shocking photos of the impact of climate change. Also some other aspects that are linked with the impact of climate change as well. So we need to basically acknowledge those impacts connected to climate change, and then we're starting to finding perhaps solutions for this problem. So how do we address the climate change problems as well? So there is a number of themes that we need to understand, and we need to connect those, I always say connect the dots, because there's a number of issues such as energy crisis that we're facing today. There's climate change and the climate change impacts. Then there is the COP26 themes. Also, we can mention COP27 and 28. We can also connect with energy security, and we connect all of these themes with policies, government policies, the resources that need to be mobilized, capital investment needs to be made, and also not just the businesses, private, the public, but also us. We have a responsibility as well. We need to understand the energy crisis. What is the root of the energy crisis at the moment? Part of the problem, it's connected to dependency on gas from Russia. And we know the climate change topic that is related to the burning of fossil fuels. And again, we relate that and that problem of dependency with climate change as well. And again, we need to address that problem. Of course, COP26 had a lot of discussions, 27 and 28 as well. There was a lot of discussions about climate change and how to address climate change. And we connect that with resilience as well, the resilience aspect of energy supply. So we need to connect the objectives of COP26, which took place in Glasgow, as you know, with enhancing energy resilience. We also need to develop domestic energy resources. And by doing that, we're going to enhance energy security as well. And it's really a lot up to the government, but also up to companies to establish or change the direction of travel, as I say. So consistent policies are important, but also stimulate private investment is very, very important. And there is a part to play by all of us as well. So environmental drivers are related to energy security. Energy supply is, of course, a key issue for all of us. And here in the UK, there is a high dependency on energy imports. And that impacts all our lives and reflected on the price that we pay for energy, for example. So security of supply, prices are very key issues. Affordability, availability, they are two big themes within this context. Very often we are a little bit cynical about the all talk, no action part of these issues and these problems. There's a lot of diplomacy related to the Conference of Parties on Climate Change. It's a lot of discussion by governments, but then we want to see evidence. We want to see all the rhetoric translated into action. So we still know that production and consumption are dependent on fossil fuels. How do we switch away from fossil fuels into cleaner energy? So how do we develop the need for change and get there? That's the key aspect. What resources do we need to mobilize in terms of capital investment, perhaps in terms of expertise, in terms of real initiatives by private companies, but also by government initiatives. And in this context, the government policy can really be a very important driving force. And of course, us, again, I've said a couple of times before, we also have a role to fulfill. But let's start with what businesses can do. So business sustainability means integrating the social, economic, and environmental dimension. So we already mentioned that. And this is in the context of the triple bottom line approach. So when we talk about business sustainability, it's not just about compliance with regulations, but also to be more proactive. We need business to be more proactive. We need business to identify all their environmental impacts and make sure they're addressing those environmental impacts as well. So very simple sustainability practices. We are talking about, for example, recycle and reuse. We are talking about reduce waste, reduce single-use products, reduce environmental impacts, improve energy efficiency and energy conservation. Also take in consideration the water and water conservation, and manage chemicals safely, of course, if you are in that space as a business. So sustainability business practice, it's about projecting a good image and reputation, establish that good reputation in the market. And it's about just applying the principles in practices and not just use the sustainability as a PR tool. That's what some companies and some businesses do. But of course, we are all much more savvy these days as consumers, and we scrutinize companies very, very closely. But it's that sense of responsibility that I mentioned a couple of times as well, and business have got to acquire that sense of social and environmental responsibility and take steps in that direction. So we also need to be part of the solution. And so I'm asking you to think about what you can do to actually help the planet and help the environment. Let's go back to our mentee and try to answer a couple of questions as well. So how can we link energy resilience with the need to address climate change concerns? So by developing domestically produced clean energy, import more clean energy, stop production and consumption of oil, and reopen coal-fired power stations. Okay, so all of you have have answered, I guess, some of you anyway. So the correct answer, of course, is by developing domestically produced clean energy. Of course, it just addresses two important worries or concerns. One is developing domestically produced energy resources, which helps with energy resilience, but also you address the climate change aspect as well. So the last one, so this is an open-end, oh no, not yet. We answer, what can governments do to mitigate the impact of climate change, promote investment in energy resources produced domestically, stop oil production and import of oil instead from other countries, support development of renewable energy, reduce the imports of oil and gas. Of course, this is a tricky one because, of course, there was some possible answers that you might think that they might be correct as well, such as reduce the import of oil and gas. But because you only allowed one, so the one that it seems to fulfill all objectives is support development of renewable energy. Okay, so let's just answer the last question. Might as well just do it now. So you're going to answer what habit or lifestyle would you be prepared to change to save the planet? Okay, so once diet change, vehicles change, more public transport, switch to renewable energy car. I don't meet need. I'm not, and I'm working towards being vegan. Okay, so that's all valid efforts. Minimize vehicle use. Okay, transport, diet, use better public transport, everything. Oh, very good. Very ambitious, in fact. Reduce consumption and avoid unnecessary procurement. Diet, active travel, shopping purchase, home renewable energy. Use better public transport. Okay, so that's all good answers actually. And there's a big range. Eat less meat, yes, you got it right. Because of course, agriculture sector and specifically where animal is concerned, all that industry is generating a lot of greenhouse gas. Methane is the gas that is mostly emitted from that sector. Okay, so all valid and interesting answers. Thank you very much, everybody, for providing. Okay, let's just look at the leaderboard. Okay, let's see, total Thomas. Yes, congratulations to Thomas, which was the winner in the quiz. Thank you very much, Thomas. That was very, very good. So good knowledge. Thanks, Thomas. And thanks everybody for taking part, because of course makes it a bit more interesting for us as well. So we all perhaps prepared to change something. Sometimes we just need to start somewhere and gradually be more ambitious. So it requires an effort from our part, some reflection and some practical steps. So what could we do to achieve that sustainability in everyday life? So switching off lights, walking to the shops, or using a bike, recycling, managing waste. So all of the stuff that you've mentioned, they're all interesting. We can take small steps and then perhaps build it up from that point. And we have to think perhaps that we cannot stop climate change completely, but we can take steps to mitigate climate change. So we can perhaps start with less ambition, with some energy savings, like we said, and energy efficiencies, but perhaps gradually, if you're a business, perhaps move into more ambition plans in direction of low emissions or renewables. So all the recycling, reuse, all the energy efficiencies, green purchasing. So all those are valid steps that we can take to achieve results. Because if all of us are engaged in this process, we're more likely to save the planet. I don't want to be too dramatic, but it's probably the case. So there is some encouraging aspects. So the expansion of e-vehicles is actually a reality, and the market is growing very fast. As I mentioned earlier on, considerable investment in power generation is being made in UK. The renewable energy sector, which has experienced more investment, is the wind power. So significant amount of energy in power energy is actually generated by renewable energy, which is a very, very encouraging development. And obviously more is required. And also scope for improvement on many different technologies, clean energy technologies, including battery technology, of course, charging infrastructure as well, if you want the e-vehicles to expand, the market to expand. So that is one of the requirements, the expansion of charging infrastructure. Also, switching to solar, perhaps, one option for business and individuals. And again, there is some scope for improvement on energy storage systems. We know the costs of investing in solar power have come down quite considerably, but perhaps more scope for improvement on some of the technologies available. So some positive messages to conclude. Investment has been done in the power sector, but also electric cars are now growing quite considerably in Europe. Last year in Europe, we experienced about 13% growth in sales of electric cars, which is quite encouraging again. So that increase in the share of electricity in our power in the UK. Both UK and Europe are leading into the investment in clean energy, which again would make us quite hopeful. So obviously the goal is to reach the 100% renewable energy. Is that possible? So perhaps there are many hurdles to overcome, but perhaps again, with the steps that we're taking, ourselves as individuals, and also companies, government, is important. So the aspect of environmental policies and consistent environmental policies are required. So I would finalize to say that we need to be ambitious. We need to visualize and construct a future to really journey towards net zero and establish that foundation. That's what we're doing now in the energy transition period, is to establish the foundation. So the idea is that we can transform the world by changing the agenda towards sustainability. So I want to say thank you very much for everybody taking part, and I think we can go for questions, perhaps.
We don't actually have any questions currently, though. If anybody wants to post their questions, if they've been holding on to them, now would be a good time. Helen has asked if she can raise a point about EV. What's your
Yes,
questions? Helen, can you pop your question in the chat, please? Alicia's, yes, the slides will be raised, and Alicia's asked, can you share any information about the timescales relating to Clean Futures accelerator support?
I think that's a question for Brian.
That one is, yes. I'm just waiting for Helen to come back about the EV.
Yeah.
Brian, do you want to pick up that? I've just got a response from Helen about the EV. Helen has said there's been significant focus on EV, but what about the carbon footprint of EV?
Yes, that is a discussion that is now being brought up. In a few years back, there was no discussion about environmental impacts related to EV, but now people are becoming a bit more aware that is true. This is why I said there is scope for improvement, considerable scope for improvement in the technologies, including the batteries. So yes, I started to discuss that also with my students, because they're very aware, they're the ones that want to know, and they very often bring that up in the classroom about those environmental impacts. We cannot say at the moment there is zero environmental impacts related to EV, but it's still less damaging if we do a bit of balance compared to petrol or diesel car in terms of impacts on the environment, impacts of driving. Of course, yes, the question of about the supply chain and about the raw materials and how that is sourced and the conditions where you find all of these materials, that is a concern, of course. And also the life cycle and the disposal part of the batteries, if we're talking about the batteries specifically. So that is a concern, and I don't want to hide that. I don't want to at the moment say it's completely no impact at all. There is some impact, and we need, but it's first step is you raise the issues, you raise the problems, and then we need to address those issues. There is still some scope there. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but this is kind of work in progress, if you like, in the sector. But hopefully, as we evolve and the technology evolves, there will be less considerations in relation to environmental impacts. That will be less of a problem, if you like. I hope that answers your question.
I think you could have a whole webinar on that topic alone.
Yeah, that's right. You could. Indeed, yes.
Brian, have you got anything to add about the Clean Futures Accelerator, the next cohort?
Yeah, on the accelerator. The next cohort, we're going to launch the application process at the end of April. There will be some webinars around that application process, what the key challenges that the application process is looking to address. And then the application process, that finishes 9th of June. So yeah, as I say, there will be webinar, there will be some open day at Coventry University and BCIMO to go through the process and the support that's available. So again, if you keep an eye on our website, you can see some more details on there.
We'll share the various contacts that you need for that anyway, so don't worry. And we've got one more question. How do existing infrastructure systems designed for traditional non-sustainable practices pose a challenge to the global transition towards sustainability, and what strategies could be implemented to overcome these obstacles?
That's a very big question.
It is
with
a
big
big
answer. That's massive. So we're leaving what we designate as energy transition. Of course, the pace of transition, it's very complex, as you realize, and also very different from place to place. And of course, in Europe, especially, we in Europe, we're leading to a certain extent the process of transition by investing or more investment in both in the power sector and the transport sector. Transport sector has been the problem, and it's difficult to decarbonize. And we're just starting now to decarbonize the sector in Europe. So there's a long way to go still, as we are completely dependent on our cars, and obviously the public transport as well, depending on fossil fuels. So there is a long way. Of course, I always think one of the drivers, of course, is government support for these initiatives. If you, for example, look into the pace of transition in Europe, and within Europe, there is many different transition paces. If we think about Scandinavia and Norway, for example, there's been a clear switch to electric cars. And that is because of the support that the government has done in terms of subsidies and tax breaks, etc. So the whole range of policies that encouraged the drivers to switch to electric cars. Of course, there is a bit of a combination of stick and carrot approach. So it's about taxation and about subsidies in the right balance. So taxing obviously the burning fossil fuel, and obviously we've been taxed more, ULEZ zones, etc., seem to have been doing the necessary encouragement in the negative to persuade drivers to use public transport, or obviously switch to electric cars. So there is a complex process, and of course, you're right when you say the incentives need to be there, and the investments need to be made into infrastructure, for example, but also in terms of resources, such additional power to the grid, for example. So that is another big issue and big problem, because of course we are switching to electric cars. Where is the additional power coming from? Of course, it has to come from clean energy, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. So, it's a very complex scenario that we actually analyzing here, and it's all very different from one country to the next. But I think a combination of stick and carrot sort of approach, that you need to tax perhaps bad behavior and driving fossil fuel cars, and maybe supporting more and giving more incentives to purchase of electric cars, but also in other aspects of power, incentives for people to residentials and businesses to adopt solar power, for example, which was something that was started with feed-in tariffs, for example, and all of these encouragements were actually dropped by the government. So then it completely stopped the trend towards installation of solar energy. So yeah, there is a long conversation to have about around those drivers, and about infrastructure investment, about how you stimulate the investment in clean energy. It's the picture is quite complex and ever changing. So we need a little bit more probably guidance in the UK from government in terms of a clear set of measures to get to the journey towards net zero, which of course we've got the target 2050, but nobody knows how we're going to get there. In fact, it's quite ambitious, yes, but how do we get there? That's the key. And we obviously discussing here this theme for a reason, because of course we want all of us to start thinking about it. And I can't say I have all the answers, I do not, but we're searching for the best answers. And this is a continuous improvement area. Don't know if Brian wants to add anything to what I've said so far.
No, nothing else from
Okay.
me. Is there any more questions, Lindsay?
Only the one, is nuclear power an option for the short term to help the energy infrastructure issue? I'm not sure whether we've got time to go into that or not. Louisa, what do you think?
Sorry, say it again.
Is nuclear power an option in the short term to help the energy infrastructure issue?
I think all possible solutions need to be considered at this point. And I think, again, I know, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but we need more guidance from government, more stimulation to encourage development of alternative fuels. And well, I don't want to get too political, but we need some clear direction, and even businesses struggle to find that information and that support. And of course, you know, if you are planning to invest in clean energy, you need some clear guidance, and you obviously need some push, some encouragement, and there's a whole set of measures that need to be considered. So yeah, I'm sorry, I might not be answering the question fully, but it's one that it's, you know, it's really so dependent on how we managing this process, and I'm not really sure if this process of transition is being managed well, and that's my doubts in my mind.
Do we need to move to the next section now?
Okay, should we move on to the to Sarah's presentation? Do you want to? Can you put it on full screen, Louisa?
Yes. I'm very sorry I didn't put it up before because the pages were sticking a bit when I placed on the. So it was quite hard to move from one page to the next. So yeah, I'll try, obviously, yes.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Louisa. That was a really good overview. And yeah, thanks to Brian and the team for inviting me along. I'm Sarah Ballinger, a business energy advisor working on the decarbonisation net zero programme. I specifically help Coventry businesses at the moment, but the decarbonisation programme does support SMEs in the West Midlands Combined Authority area. So that includes Birmingham, Black Country, Wolverhampton, for example. Next slide, please. Are you there, Louisa?
Yeah, but it's just sticking.
Oh,
sorry, I have to get out of full screen, I think. Hold on with me.
bugs are in the system today.
Yeah, no, it's just sticking.
could carry on in the meantime. Oh, is it working
Okay,
now?
done. Sorry, it's sticking for some reason. Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, if you go on the next slide as well. Thank you. Yeah, so what is the decarbonisation net zero programme? So we aim to offer free advice to SMEs in the region, and we can make a number of recommendations for them to start their decarbonisation programme, reduce carbon emissions, and save money as well on energy bills as well. It's UK government funded, so we're funded through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And yeah, we can offer a number of opportunities for businesses in the region. Next slide. So objectives of the programme, kind of mentioned this before, but yeah, supporting decarbonisation across the region for small businesses via energy audits. And this is in line with the UK government's net zero target for 2050. And yeah, we're there to kind of offer free support, and there is grant funding available as well. Next slide. So some of the outputs from the programme, we will be delivering a number of energy audits for SMEs. So that's businesses with fewer than 250 employees based in West Midlands area. The programme will be running until March 2025. We launched about October last year. And then on the back of these energy audits, some businesses will be eligible for capital grants for energy efficiency measures. So minimum grant of £1,000, maximum grant of £100,000, and the grant funding intervention rate is 50% towards the costs. And yeah, we're committed to supporting a wide range of small businesses. So previously we have had some restrictions, so via the Coventry and Warwickshire Green Business Programme, we couldn't support like retail businesses, for example, but the scope of this new programme is wider. So, you know, from hairdressers, shops, salons, up to, you know, large manufacturing companies, you know, with over 100 employees. Yeah, there's a wide scope for what we can offer. Next slide. Oh, excuse me. Is that going to come up? Just to outline, I suppose the range of support and I suppose the journey for businesses. So the initial process is to register on the programme. We capture some details, just check eligibility, just have a chat with you about you know, what your needs and kind of what your business is looking for. As part of the initial process as well, we have to send you a triage form, just look at how much energy you use per year, and a few extra questions on what particularly you want out of the programme. So is it more on advice, or is it more the capital grants that you're interested in? At that stage, some businesses with quite high energy usage will be triaged to high energy intensive audits. So there's a small number of those that are being carried out. It's usually businesses like foundries with, you know, large energy load, lots of heat processing, but most businesses will go through the kind of standard energy audit process. So yeah, we will have a chat with you. We would ask for 12 months worth of energy bills, so electric, gas, oil data, or anything like that. And then we would book a site visit with you. So energy advisor would come out to site, have a walk around, ask you lots of questions. You know, what do you do at the business? Lighting, heating, look at the building fabric. Yeah, we'd gather a range of information at that stage. And then following that, we would issue you with an energy report. So we would outline some of the recommendations following on from the site visit. Recommendations will kind of give you a basic overview, such as how much energy you'll be saving, the cost saving, how much it would cost to install the measure, and then the estimated payback period and carbon emissions as well. So you've got lots of information to make an informed decision on next steps. Some of the recommendations might be no cost measures, there might be heating controls, kind of behavioural changes that you might be able to achieve, you know, at no cost for the business. And then some of the recommendations would be, yeah, looking to invest in certain energy efficiency measures. And following on from that, some businesses will be eligible for grant funding. So as I mentioned before, there's capital grants available from 1k up to 100k at a 50% intervention rate. And yeah, yeah, you'd get support on how to apply for this. Okay, next slide. So other resources as part of the decarbonisation net zero programme, we aim to offer kind of like a wide wraparound kind of offer of support. We have a green business network, so it's free to join. We'll send out a monthly newsletter and any kind of like updates around funding or kind of events that are happening. We offer a number of webinars, face-to-face events, some networking events. So yeah, please, if you're interested, there's a QR code to join there. It's yeah, completely free of charge. We've got over 3,000 members now across the West Midlands region. Next slide. We also host the Green Business podcast. So again, encourage you to have a look at that. There's a range of podcasts on different topics. So energy saving, setting carbon reduction targets, biodiversity. And yeah, we get a range of expert speakers involved and kind of, yeah, information sharing, digging deeper into certain topics around sustainability. Next slide. And just to mention the Green Business Directory as well. So there's a link there. This is hosted on Coventry City Council's website. So previously we've had grant applications ask for, you know, where do I go to start to get quotes if you're looking for grant funding. So normally you'd have to get 3 comparable quotes for anything if you're looking for LED lighting, solar PV, etc. So there's a range of businesses. It's kind of like a first port of call. As we're like a local authority, we can't recommend particular ones, but it's just a list of businesses you can go to, and then hopefully that can help you in the grant application process. And then equally, if you are a supplier or you know anyone that would want to be listed, then please get in touch with us as well. Next slide. And yeah, just to mention some of the other kind of wider support available. This will take you to the support in Coventry, but there are other programmes across the West Midlands region as well. So we offer, as a council, non-financial and financial support for business growth, kind of productivity. So yeah, if you want some help on marketing, for example, we have specialists that are, you know, able to provide this free of charge. There's also capital grants available. So this is a separate pot of funding on top of the net zero programme. And yeah, capital grants for business growth, productivity. So just to give an example, like a manufacturing company that are looking, you know, to get some more machinery, and then there'll be job creation on the back of that, or product innovation. These are the types of projects that are supported. Yeah, there's another QR code there, and the main email address, so business@coventry.gov.uk, if you're interested in that. Next slide, please. And we work with a number of partners to provide this non-financial support, or kind of our business advisors will refer you to particular programmes. So there's the Coventry Warwickshire Chamber of Commerce, the Growth Hub, CDA, and there we might, I suppose, yeah, triage you to certain programmes that we think would be the best fit. So there's startup support available, kind of like business coaching, just, yeah, a range of support. So yeah, if you're interested, you can get in touch with the business@coventry.gov.uk email address, and then we can kind of support you through the process, and we do a diagnostic to refer you onto different programmes. Next slide. Yeah, I think that's mainly everything. So yeah, I don't know if anyone had any questions on the support that's available, or anything around, say, eligibility. Yeah, just let me know.
We'll just give people a few moments. They've tended to listen and then ask the questions. No questions?
Don't think so. But Lindsay, I think the slides are being shared, aren't they? And there's
Yes.
Yeah, we'll share the slides around, and all our contact details are in there. So if they've got questions afterwards, they can contact me.
Brilliant.
Can I just make a couple of comments about the presentation? Just a few words. Just say thank you very much, Sarah, and I'm very impressed with the range of green initiatives from the local council. So just to say, I don't want to sound too skeptical, and earlier on I might have sounded too skeptical about government initiatives, but I think you showed me that there is quite a range of initiatives that and companies need to engage with those. So very, very impressed. Thank you very much, Sarah, for letting us know about all these range activities. And I did learn a lot as well from your presentation. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Yeah, and I think it's just worth saying there are a number of programmes at a local level that are quite good. I suppose then you're restricted by geography, but yeah, as well as the decarbonisation net zero programme, we can also refer you to the Warwickshire Business Energy Advice Service, and there's similar support across the marches as well. So that includes Worcestershire, Shropshire. So hopefully this kind of support will be continuing for years.
Yeah, they needed, definitely.
Yeah,
very good. Well done. Well done. Just very proud.
Thank you.
Louisa, have you got time for one more question?
Yes, of course.
There seems to be an awful lot of interest in the EV and other fuels.
Oh, yes.
But one question was, what significant and serious efforts are businesses in transport sector making to prepare ahead of critical material shortages for EV batteries, so they can make their supply chain sustainable and resilient? I'm not sure if you can answer that.
That is again a big question.
It is.
We seem to in Europe be not developing the supply chains that are required to support that growth in the market of EV vehicles, unfortunately. So we getting to the point when we're going to rely on Chinese imports. And this is what's actually happening. So a lot of the parts and a lot of the battery parts are actually in China. And so for most countries in Europe, they've been failing to put together a valid and important supply chain to feed into that market. And that's worrying, of course. Of course, that is, again, when we think about the threat, we think about opportunities as well. So there is plenty of opportunities in that particular area. Unfortunately, perhaps not enough incentives to invest in that sector. I think recently one company in the UK went out of business. So more needs to be done in terms of supporting that level of investment required. Otherwise, we're completely dependent on import of battery and battery parts. So again, it's about having the right incentives in place, because I don't think there is lack of will or capital of expertise, etc., but it's a lack of incentives and perhaps enough subsidies that are going to stimulate that particular sector. So of course the market is growing, and we know that for sure, but what's going to support that growth and how? That is the question. Again, I also mentioned earlier on about the need to generate additional power to the grid to support the switch to electric cars. Again, that nobody has come up with the right solutions, and we could face a serious problem in terms of what power is available. Are we building more power generations stations on gas-based or the fossil fuels, which is really not, it defeats the purpose completely. So yeah, I'm afraid it always comes down to some quite shrewd policies and government policies to attract that necessary investment in the sector and to feed into those supply chains that we need to create, and also will be quite beneficial in terms of job creation, etc. I hope that I partly answer the question.
Yeah. I think another area is around the circular economy as well. I mean, at our launch event, there was a presentation by JLR there and their sustainability manager, and one of the key things for them to achieve net zero EV was around circular economy. How do you reuse? You have to reuse every part, and there's a massive amount of work going on in reusing battery technology and reusing those materials. That's a major area.
I think that's important, and that connects with the question somebody asked earlier on about environmental impacts of batteries and all of that. So yeah, again, there is many hurdles, many problems need to be overcome, and it's about identifying these problems and trying to find the best solution for those problems. So we're actually creating, this is what I say to my students as well, we're creating new ideas, new solutions. I don't have all the answers, but let's try together to come up with perhaps some good creative responses to the problems that exist out there. And I think we all in the process of doing that. Any other questions?
No, just some very positives in response to your answers, both of you.
I hope it's not too negative.
All right, do you want to move on then? We just close if there's no other questions. Do you want to move to the next slide, Louisa? Oh. Next one, and next one. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks very much, Louisa, and thanks, Sarah, for your overview of the support available in the region to support businesses to decarbonise. If you need more information, then there's a QR code here in the presentation that we send out. So our next masterclass is around developing a sustainable and profitable business. On the 24th of April, you can sign up for that there. We've got another QR code which gives an overview of all the events, the masterclasses that we're running. And then finally, we've got a microsite that gives information about the catalyst and the accelerator. So if you need to find out more information about Clean Futures, you can find it on there. So that's all from us. I'd just like to thank Sarah and Louisa for supporting the masterclass today, and thanking everybody really for joining and participating in the masterclass. Yeah, thanks all for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Brian and Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all.